A big scientific breakthrough was reported in the news recently. It involves something called cloning. It all sounds very sci-fi, so we asked Sarah to find out more about what cloning is and how it's being used.
Wouldn't it be cool if there were a way to make copies of yourself? Of course, no one's actually managed to make a cloning machine. But for a long time now, cloning's been much more than science fiction. Cloning is the process of copying living things, making something that's genetically identical to another. That's not as unusual as you might think. Have you ever seen someone take a cutting of a plant? With a bit of luck, if I leave this in water for a while, some roots will grow at the end, and I'll end up with a whole new geranium that's genetically identical to the one that I cut it from. There are natural clones in the animal world too. You might have even met some. Identical twins aren't clones of their parents, but they are clones of each other. But the sort of cloning that most often makes the news is the sort that happens in the lab. For a long time, scientists have been trying to make exact copies of animals by transferring a cell from one into the unfertilised egg of another, making a baby that's genetically identical to the first. And in the 90s, that technique led to the birth of the world's first mammal cloned from adult cells. Dolly the sheep. Dolly became an international superstar and got many people excited about the potential of cloning. With just a few cells, could you bring back extinct species, copy people's pets, or reproduce the perfect cow or horse? Since Dolly, there have been dozens of cloned animals. But there's also been a lot of debate about whether cloning is the right thing to do. Animal cloning is a lot different to my geranium. It's really difficult, and many of the babies don't survive. Some are born with terrible mutations. In many countries, including Australia, there are laws against cloning humans. But there is a different sort of cloning that's hit the headlines recently, called therapeutic cloning. It's not about cloning the whole person. It's about cloning tiny human cells which can be used to treat diseases. And last week, scientists announced a big breakthrough. They've managed to take a human skin cell and put it into an unfertilised human egg to make an embryo, the very earliest stage of a human. They won't let the embryos develop further. Instead, they'll be used to collect stem cells. That's a term you might have heard before. Stem cells are really special because they can turn into other sorts of cells. Just like the cells in this stem can become roots. Because embryonic stem cells can turn into anything, scientists reckon they could be the key to curing many diseases and helping people whose bodies aren't working properly. But it's controversial. While some see embryos as just clumps of cells, others see them as potential people, and they say creating and destroying them just to collect cells is wrong. And there are worries that this new technology could be used to copy a whole human. They reckon it's messing with something that should be left to nature. It's a difficult debate, but it's one that's going to continue as science fiction moves closer and closer to science fact.